Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of the Arbor Farm. Thank you for joining us. In this episode, I'm going to show you the importance of trimming tomato plants and how to trim those tomato plants. Let's get started. So first off, what type of tomato plant needs to be trimmed? It's important to know that not every kind does, and before you start trimming yours, you need to decide, is the tomato plant determinate or indeterminate? Meaning, is it a compact bush that grows well already as the way it's designed? Or is it an indeterminate tomato like those behind me here that are unruly and I've sort of left them to become a mess? So let's take a look first of all at the compact kind that are a determinate tomato that does not need to be trimmed. I'm going to take you across to another row and show you an example of a plant. Let's take a look here at this determinate tomato plant. You'll notice that it's already pretty compact in nature. It's neat and tidy in appearance, and it's not sprawling every which way. So this is a determinate tomato plant. And then the way that we can actually tell for sure is if you look at the very top, and it has some buds coming, some buds as far as blossoms, and it will produce tomatoes at the very top. That's another way that you can tell. So this tomato plant doesn't need to be trimmed, other than if it has leaves at the bottom that are dragging on the ground, you can trim those up. But otherwise, this kind of tomato plant is good to go. And here's an example of an indeterminate tomato plant, one that needs to be trimmed up, or else it's going to grow every which way and take over the garden. An indeterminate tomato plant that we have here is an heirloom variety, and we can tell that it is an indeterminate tomato plant because it has leaves at the top rather than buds, indicating that it's just going to keep growing. So let's take a look at how to trim this guy up. To trim your tomato plant, you want to determine where the main stem is of the plant. So we can see here that this is our main stem. It's the fattest one. It goes all the way from the ground up to the top. So that's our main stem. And you never want to top a tomato plant because that will tell the plant that it's time to finish growing, and it will stop growing, and then it will fill out the fruit that it has started building, and then the plant will die. So you don't want to top your tomato plant for sure until you know that there is a frost that is coming. So how do we trim this tomato plant? There are a few things that I like to look for. And first of all, I like to start by going down to the base of the tomato plant and seeing if there are any leaves that are touching the ground, any branches that are touching the ground. And I like to trim those up. So let's take a look at the base of the plant. At the base of this plant, we can see that there are some leaves that we could clean up. And so we're gonna take our pruners and snip off the leaves that are hanging down and get rid of those to create some airflow through here. That one, and I'm gonna get rid of that leaf as well. So backing up here, you can see now that I've trimmed out around the base of the plant, and there's a good airflow. None of the leaves are touching the ground, and that's what we want. The next thing we want to look for is, does this plant have suckers? Now, to find a sucker, you're going to follow the main stem up, and then a leaf comes off. This is a leaf. A sucker is something that is growing on top of the leaf branch there. So this is a sucker. We want to get rid of this, and you can see that this grows, this little shoot is coming out of that leaf stem. So we're gonna get rid of the sucker. We clip that off, and we're looking, are there any other suckers? Well, here is one here, because this is a leaf branch, and this is sending up a sucker. So we're going to clip that one off as well. And if I go up a little farther, you can see that there's one more up here, and I'm gonna get rid of that one. It just helps to keep things tidy, and it helps the plant to be able to put its energy into creating the fruit or growing the fruit. And so let's take a look at this tomato plant. We'll back it up again and see how it looks. I backed up a bit so you can see the plant that I just trimmed here. It's the one that's right by the T-post. And you can see now that it is nice and clean. It has no leaves until we get up into here. And it has good airflow. It allows the air to flow through, which minimize diseases. And we've gotten rid of the suckers. And all of these things allow this plant to pour its energy into growing the tomatoes or growing the fruit. So it will do well from this point forward. So what is the why about trimming your tomato plants? Why should you do it? Why should you not let them go to this mess like I've got behind me here? Well, first of all, the plant puts its energy into whatever is on the vine. If you've got a whole bunch of foliage like we trim off, then the plant is putting its energy into growing leaves. And quite frankly, we don't care if our plant has a whole bunch of leaves. Sure, you want to leave a few on there, but the plant is pouring its energy into whatever it's growing, and removing those leaves, removing the extra ones that are down low, helps the plant. It helps it to be able to put its energy into growing beautiful tomatoes instead. The second reason why you want to trim your tomato plants is to help to keep it from becoming diseased. And removing those leaves helps the airflow to come through. It helps it so that it doesn't grow things like mildew, and it helps to keep your plants from becoming diseased. And so trimming them is an important aspect for having healthy plants. Now I've got to get to work cleaning up this mess here behind me, trimming up these tomatoes, and I better get busy. Thank you for joining us for today's episode. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be with us, and we hope that you'll click the like or subscribe button so that you can continue to receive notifications as to when we publish new content. Have a great day.